My wife left our hotel room at 11:43 that night and forgot her wedding ring on the bathroom counter. I almost didn't notice it. The room was dark except for the light over the sink. I got up for water, saw the ring beside her makeup bag and just stood there staring at it. Emily never took that ring off. Not for showers. Not for sleep. Not even once in 12 years. But that night she did. I told myself not to think too much about it. Maybe her fingers swelled from the heat. Maybe she forgot. Maybe I was tired from traveling. That's what I wanted to believe while I sat alone on the balcony of our hotel in Santorini listening to music from the beach below. My name's Ryan Mercer. At the time I was 39, married, and running a small financial consulting business outside Denver. Emily handled marketing for luxury resorts, which sounded glamorous until you realized it mostly meant lying politely to rich people for a living. That vacation was supposed to save our marriage. At least that's what she kept saying before I found the message on her second phone. Emily and I used to be the couple everyone copied. That's not an exaggeration. Friends asked where we traveled. Her sister copied our kitchen remodel down to the cabinet color. People always said we looked balanced. I handled numbers. Emily handled people. Quiet husband. Charming wife. It worked for a long time. Or maybe I only thought it did. About a year before that trip, things started shifting in ways I couldn't explain. Nothing dramatic. Just small gaps where connection used to be. She guarded her phone more. Started taking work calls outside. Became strangely protective over simple things like passwords and schedules. Whenever I asked if something was wrong, she smiled too fast. You're imagining things, Ryan. Maybe I wanted to imagine things. The truth felt heavier. In Santorini, she acted perfect during the day. Photos. Wine tastings. Smiling at strangers. But nights were different. She'd disappear for an hour to walk. Sometimes longer. Then come back distant, almost irritated to see me awake. The second phone stayed hidden in her suitcase the entire trip. I shouldn't have opened it. But after the third night, I stopped believing accidents were accidents. I waited until Emily fell asleep before touching the second phone. My hands were steady. That surprised me. The phone didn't even have a passcode. Almost like she never expected me to find it. I sat in the bathroom with the shower running so she wouldn't hear anything and opened the messages. There weren't hundreds. That somehow made it worse. Just one contact saved under the name M. The messages went back 6 months. Hotel reservations. Flight screenshots. Photos from places Emily told me she visited for work. Then I found the line that made my stomach go cold. Once he signs the Arizona deal, we won't have to hide anymore. The Arizona deal was mine. A consulting contract worth almost $2 million. Emily had pushed me to take it. Encouraged me every step of the way. At the time, I thought she believed in me. I kept scrolling. There were pictures too. Nothing explicit. Just enough. Her hand on another man's chest. Their reflection in an elevator mirror. A photo of the exact restaurant she claimed she visited alone. I heard the bed creak in the other room and locked the screen immediately. That's when Emily softly said my name from the doorway behind me. I turned around expecting panic. Emily looked annoyed instead. Not scared. Not guilty. Just tired. She crossed her arms and leaned against the bathroom door like I'd interrupted her evening. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The shower kept running between us. Then she looked at the phone in my hand and sighed. So now you know. That was it. No apology. No explanation. I remember staring at her because my brain couldn't catch up to the moment. 12 years together and she sounded bored. Like this conversation had already happened in her head 100 times. How long? I asked quietly. A while. A while meaning what? She shrugged. Long enough that pretending became exhausting. That hurt more than the cheating. Not because she betrayed me. Because she'd already emotionally left the marriage while I was still trying to save it. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and said something I still hear clearly years later. You were never supposed to find out until after the Arizona money cleared. I didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. I just stood there realizing my wife hadn't simply cheated on me. She'd been planning my replacement for months. The strange thing about betrayal is how quiet it becomes after the truth finally lands. Emily fell asleep an hour after admitting everything. Actually slept. I stayed awake watching the ceiling fan spin above our bed while my entire life rearranged itself in my head. Every canceled dinner. Every work trip. Every moment she acted irritated by my presence suddenly made perfect sense. Around 4 a.m, I made a decision. I wasn't going to fight her. No begging. No screaming. No dramatic confrontation in a hotel lobby. Emily already expected that version of me. She expected emotion, confusion, maybe even desperation. Instead, I booked myself on the earliest flight back to Denver without telling her. Then I called my attorney. His name was Greg Holloway. We'd known each other since college. I told him only 3 things. My wife was cheating. There was likely financial manipulation involved. And I wanted everything prepared before she returned home. Greg went silent for a moment before saying, "Ryan, don't text her anything stupid." "I won't." That part was easy. By the time Emily woke up beside me, smiling like nothing happened, I already knew our marriage was over. She just didn't know how quietly I planned to disappear first. I vanished 3 days after we got home. No warning. Emily came back from a client dinner and found my closet empty, my office cleaned out, and the house security codes changed. Greg had arranged everything while I stayed in a furnished condo under another name across town. I ignored every call. At first, Emily sounded irritated in her voicemails, then confused, then angry. By the second week, she stopped pretending she cared about the marriage and started asking about money instead. Specifically the Arizona contract. She wanted access to an account she suddenly couldn't reach anymore. That's when Greg uncovered the real problem. Emily hadn't just been cheating. She'd quietly moved company funds through fake marketing vendors connected to the man from the messages. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. Enough to bury inside normal business expenses unless someone looked carefully. Greg looked carefully. We spent weeks collecting everything. Bank transfers, emails, travel records, even hotel receipts tied directly to the affair. I said almost nothing during that time. The quieter I became, the more careless Emily got. Then one afternoon, Greg placed a thick folder on the table beside me and said, "You can serve the divorce papers now." But I wanted to hand them to her myself. Emily saw me 6 weeks later at a charity fundraiser downtown. She nearly dropped her wine glass. The event was crowded with investors, business owners, and people from the resort industry. Emily loved rooms like that. Attention always came easily to her. By the time I walked in, she was already laughing beside a group near the stage. Then she looked up and froze. I walked over calmly and handed her a sealed envelope. At first, she smiled like she thought I'd come back to apologize. Then she opened it. I watched the color leave her face page by page. Divorce papers. Financial fraud documentation. A court order freezing joint business accounts. And copies of the transfers linked to her boyfriend. She whispered my name like she suddenly remembered who I was. "What did you do?" "Nothing," I said. "I just stopped protecting you." A few people nearby had started noticing. Emily tried pulling me aside, but it was too late. Greg had timed everything perfectly. While she stood there shaking, her phone started ringing nonstop. Banks, partners, one of our investors. That was the moment Emily realized the affair wasn't what destroyed her life. It was underestimating the quiet person sitting beside her all those years. The divorce finalized 8 months later. Emily lost her marketing contracts first. Then the condo she moved into with the other guy. Last I heard, he disappeared the second investigators started asking questions about the fake vendor accounts. I didn't follow the details after that. I was tired. Not angry anymore. Just done. I sold my share of the business, moved outside Boulder, and spent the next few years rebuilding a life that finally felt quiet in a good way. Mornings without suspicion. Nights without wondering who was lying to me. Then, almost 4 years later, I got the phone call. It came from a hospital in Seattle. Emily had been in an accident during a storm. Multiple surgeries. Serious complications. The nurse said my name was still listed as her emergency contact because it had never been updated. For a long moment I said nothing. Then the nurse quietly asked, "Would you like to speak to her?" Part of me wanted to hang up. But I didn't. Emily sounded weak. Smaller somehow. After a long silence, she finally whispered, "Ryan, you were the only person who ever truly loved me." I stared out at the mountains outside my window and answered honestly, "You figured that out too late."